dragons are boring. And like that, within the first second of the video, I have probably angered about 90% of you. But as you sit there likely writing your angered comments about why I'm wrong, let's take a quick look at their stat block. Okay, a giant chunk of hit points, some legendary resistances and actions, a cool breath weapon, and that's it. Now, before we get too far into the video, allow me to remind you all that D&D literally has dragons in its name. Dungeons and Dragons. That kind of implies that dragons should be like a main pillar of the entire game, or at least be one of the most epic and amazing monsters in the game, right? So if that's the case, then why is the only cool thing about this stat block the breath weapon? Well, my guess here is that it's an unfortunate side effect of something that I like to call the Dungeons & Dragons Superiority Complex Elitist Paradox, or Dad Skip. And while that name may have been made up literally on the spot as I'm recording the video, the theory has been around for years. Simply put, 5th edition was just simplified to be more accessible to a wider group of players. That's just a fact. While many people believe 5th edition is a great system, there are a bunch of elitists who say that 5e isn't really Dungeons & Dragons. I very much disagree with the sentiment, as 5e is actually my preferred way of playing, but it is very apparent that 5e was created with this core design philosophy of simplification. And this philosophy may have been carried over into designing monsters, which is just an unfortunate side effect of the design. I also want to point out that this video is specifically referring to running combat with a dragon. Dragons are obviously interesting lore-wise, being one of the best reoccurring villains because of their roleplay potential, their intelligence, and their tactics while fighting. However, the moment you tell your players to roll initiative, that uniqueness kind of goes right out the window and is replaced with a breath weapon and a giant block of hit points. So how do we make combat with a dragon more unique? Well, let's talk about that. First of all, what is the first thing you notice with all of these dragons? Hopefully you notice that they're all different colors, and these colors depict a couple of different aspects about the dragons. In fact, every single color of the dragon has different specific, unique personality traits and characteristics associated with it. For example, black dragons are sadistic in the sense that they prefer to toy with their enemies and love watching them suffer and beg for mercy, while green dragons love scheming and kind of manipulating enemies with their greater intellect. And many of you are likely aware that the color depicts the type of breath weapon any dragon might have. With these 2 bits of information, we have everything we need to make a truly unique dragon encounter. Throughout this video, if you have any ideas on how to make dragons truly unique, be sure to leave a comment below. And if anyone reads a comment from another person, be sure to let them know what you think about it as well. But anyways, let's take a look at the blue dragon. With a lightning breath and an intense superiority complex, blue dragons are incredibly dangerous and methodical combatants. Alongside their intelligent combat tactics, they also employ lesser beings to mostly fuel their giant dragon egos. So let's use that to make the blue dragon interesting. First up, lightning. Lightning breath, it's pretty cool, but it's really the only lightning about a blue dragon. What if blue dragons are more imbued with the raw power of lightning and generate it simply by moving or flying? That lightning then naturally jumps between the scales or the wings of the dragon and arcs out in an aggressive fashion when the dragon is threatened. So that's a cool lore reason for some more of a lightning theme, so let's go ahead and add that. The lightning that it generates could maybe lash out at enemies within 60 feet. And to stick with the randomness theme of lightning, maybe it just strikes a random enemy within 60 feet, but the dragon can activate it as a bonus action. We can call the ability Discharge, and that lightning can arc out trying to ground itself against an enemy target. That target then needs to make a dex save, maybe 18 or 21 depending on if it's an adult or an ancient dragon, and deal 4d10 lightning damage if they fail, or have as much on a successful save. Or maybe go another route. Instead of 4d10 damage, it could be 2d10 damage and maybe stun the target if they fail their save. That right there makes this dragon much more deadly and honestly a lot more interesting. The lightning plays more into the fight than the simple lightning breath. But let's think of something else here. Dragons are literally the physical manifestation of power, and they're tied to their elements, right? So what if the dragon literally created a storm squall around it, and the size and power depended upon the age of the dragon? Maybe when a blue dragon fights, the raw power it emits causes a thunderstorm in a vicinity around it. Downpouring rain and thunder and lightning comes seemingly out of nowhere as the dragon takes to the skies. This already sounds super epic and would make for an amazing encounter with a dragon, just from a thematic standpoint. But what are the actual mechanics of the thunderstorm going to be? Well, let's take a look at that. There's a few things that can happen during a thunderstorm that come to my immediate mind, right? Heavy winds, heavy rain, obviously lightning and thunder. Maybe you could put difficult terrain in there because of the rain and the wind, or it's a thunderstorm, so you could really just focus on the lightning. Let's say that every round, lightning strikes a random target in the radius of the storm. This lightning can strike any creatures in the vicinity of the storm, including the dragon and any potential servants it has. If the lightning strikes anyone but the dragon, they need to make a dex save of, let's say, 18 for an adult dragon or 21 for an ancient dragon, or take 3d10 lightning damage or half as much on a successful save. But if the lightning strikes the dragon, maybe it recharges its breath weapon and empowers it, imposing disadvantage on the dex checks against it. We can call this passive ability Embodiment of Storms, kind of fitting the motif. And maybe, if you wanted to go and add more to this, when the dragon is dropped below half hit points, the lightning automatically strikes it and they automatically gain the Embodiment of the Storm. This is incredibly dangerous, but also incredibly cool. And quite honestly, this would make for an epic dragon fight regardless of how you run it. Or if you wanted to take this whole dragon thing another route, you could give it innate spell casting. And then maybe alongside its multi-attack, you can allow it to replace one of its claw attacks with a spell. Blue dragons aren't stupid. They have an intelligence of 18, and honestly, it would make sense if they at least have some knowledge of spellcasting. Just like how much it makes sense for you to like and subscribe. I mean, you watch this much of the video, it just makes sense, right? Anyways, I'd probably give the dragon access to spells like Call Lightning, Storm Sphere, Lightning Bolt, and limit it to a few casts a day. This showcases not only their intelligence, but again exemplifies their element that they're tied to. Okay, so at this point, I feel like I've given you some good ideas around lightning, but let's go back to their personality traits. Like I mentioned earlier, blue dragons have an intense superiority complex. So it would make sense for a dragon to have minions aiding them in battle. But we have to be careful with this, because adding another strong enemy into the fight can very quickly and easily unbalance the entire encounter. But let's take a look back at the stat block. It actually states that blue dragons sometimes bind air elementals to their servitude. So let's just give them that, and we'll call it elemental binding. Maybe the dragon roars so loud that the wind and air around it is warped and forms an air elemental under the dragon's control. Giving the dragon the ability to summon an air elemental as it likes is a little bit too much, because it could just infinitely summon them. So if we tie it to something like the total hit points of the dragon, it kind of auto-balances itself. How about it automatically summons an air elemental with elemental binding once it's dropped to 75% of its hit points, and then again at 25% of its hit points. This way, the dragon can't willingly summon them to overwhelm the party, but the air elementals do come out at clutch moments in the fight to kind of push the party back a little bit. And honestly, by the time the PCs are fighting an adult blue dragon or an ancient blue dragon, air elementals shouldn't be really any type of threat. But when you throw it inside a fight alongside a dragon, it's going to be a great way to build on top of an already difficult encounter. Aside from the air elementals, I wouldn't really add more minions, because it wouldn't necessarily make sense for dragons, because they would never honestly let a minion know where its lair was. But the air elemental makes sense because it kind of binds to its will. So right there, I have made 3 or 4, I think it was 4, I lost count, super cool and unique traits you can add to your dragon to make that encounter much more epic. And actually, quick side note here, it may be obvious, but I want to remind everyone that everything you add to a dragon increases the challenge of that dragon greatly, and you probably don't want to add all of these things into one dragon fight. At least if you want your party to survive. But hey, that's on you. Anyways, what I just did can be easily done with any color of dragon. I simply chose blue because, well, honestly, red's overused, and it's kind of like saying I'm a Gryffindor. If you want to do this yourself, simply pick a color of dragon, sit down, think about what that dragon represents, and then the element attached to it. It's really not as difficult as you might think. If you have any ideas of your own, or have any improvements for mine, be sure to leave a comment and let other people know that you like their ideas. I read every comment, almost always reply, and who knows, I might even feature your comment in the next video. And if you like the video, I invite you to subscribe and join the channel. I post new videos every Monday and go live every Friday with our homebrew World of Sora at 7:30 p.m. EST. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on Friday.